Oh, yeah. Sherry's company. Hi. Welcome. Moses and Elijah are going to get back on track, but they're waiting on me. All right. The Bible is what we're going to be studying today, not my opinions or anything. Okay. The Midbar, or the Book of Numbers. I'm in the wrong chapter. Chapter 30. Here we go. And Moses, verse 1, and Moses spoke unto the heads of the tribes concerning the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which Yah has commanded, not men or Moses. If a man vow a vow unto Yah, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceeds out of his mouth. Verse 3, if a woman also vow a vow unto Yah, and bind herself by a bond, being in her father's house in her youth, and her father hear her vow, and her bond wherewith she has bound her soul, and her father shall hold his peace at her, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she has bound her soul shall stand. So if an individual makes a vow, and as far as I've been able to track down, all vows are voluntary. There are no commanded oaths. Okay. We're supposed to keep it. If an unmarried daughter made a promise without contrary counsel from her father, she must keep it. Okay, verse 5, but if her father disallow her in the day that he hears, not any of her vows or of her bonds wherewith she has bound her soul shall stand, and Yah shall forgive her, because her father disallowed her. Okay, and if she had at all an husband when she vowed, or uttered aught or anything out of her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her in the day that he heard it, then her vows shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband disallowed her on the day that he heard it, then he shall make her vow which she vowed, and that which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, of none effect, and Yah shall forgive her. But every vow of a widow, and of her that is divorced, wherewith they have bound their souls, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound her soul by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her, and disallowed her not, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. Okay? So if a husband waited for a period of time after his wife made a vow, he must bear any guilt involved in nullifying. That is, after an indeterminate period, the vow was in force and could be abrogated only by an appropriate sin offering, which is laid out in Leviticus 5, verses 4 through 13. And we can go over that if you guys want to. Questions, comments, insights, revelations.
Sarah asked a question, and I was going to read this. It says, the passage reviews the vows and the conditions thereof. In essence, a vow is a binding promise or pledge to Yah. It is from the Hebrew nadir, and means a promise to Yahweh. If one vows a vow to Yah, they must not defer to pay that vow. In the New Testament, Yeshua warned of making vows or oaths and stated that one should simply affirm his or her word, and that's Matthew 5:33. It's like the man, our husbands can correct that. If they're standing over us, if they hear us, they can step in and they can say, no, that's not appropriate, or no, I'm not going to allow that. And then it breaks into like the widow. If the widow or the divorced, there's no husband there to say no. So everything that she says stands. Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful at all to you.
Yeah, that helped. I was just confused about a lot of the terminology because it kept going over the vow thing. So that definitely helped. Thank you.
It's kind of like how this is how I see it. Okay, this is my opinion. Please note that. I think basically what we're talking about is like if she's swearing, whatever it may be. I'm not going to have sex anymore ever in the rest of my life. Okay, that's going to present a problem for a husband who hasn't agreed. Wait a minute. No, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, kind of like nuns in a way. I think we're talking big time decisions and stuff. And I think Yeshua is, I don't know about you guys, but I've made some offhand vows that I won't do this and that anymore, but I end up doing it again anyway. And I think what Yeshua is driving at is, since we're prone to backing out of vows and stuff, or making vows rashly, just to not vow at all and you're safe, because no vows are commanded. So you're in effect putting yourself sort of under the law, or under a law of your own making, that you have to account for. You know what I'm saying? And I'm reminded of, would have to hunt it down, where like Paul is speaking on basically a married couple. It's okay for you guys to abstain from each other. And I think it kind of means like the marriage bed. You know what I mean? It's okay if you both agree, but it's not okay if one of you say, yeah, and the other one say no, kind of a thing. Would have to hunt that down. Let's see.
No, you're definitely
We can hunt that
right.
down.
I think you're definitely on the right track. I think it's also, you can pray over and you can like dedicate your children to God, and the husband's like, maybe not, or really anything. If the husband is not in agreement with the wife, then he can make that vow null and void. Yeah. Do you need help hunting that down, or do you have that?
I was trying to think of, usually, and I remember the King James most because that's the one I've studied most. I can key in on certain words like abstain or something, but I'm not finding it. but he talks about it, abstaining from each other. But I can't. It's abstain is apparently not one of the words he uses. But we might be hunting it down in vain if nobody really has any questions further on the vow and stuff.
Is it 1 Corinthians chapter 7?
It may be.
It had similar terminology that you were talking about, and it seems kind of glancing over it, but that might be where you're referencing.
I was going to make you a sandwich. One sandwich? And a peanut butter sandwich?
Yeah, that's it exactly. Thank you, Sherry. 1 Corinthians 7:5 is what I was thinking of. Okay. Let's not get it out of context, though, but I'm not going to skip right to verse 5. Defraud you not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. But I speak this by permission and not of commandment. So Paul's kind of saying, I believe, they're not to abstain from one another. Like, you're not supposed to cut each other off
Do that.
as far as our.
Give me the peanut butter. It doesn't go in the fridge.
Lola, you're not muted.
Oh,
And I would like a peanut butter sandwich too.
yeah. You guys don't have to remain muted, but if we're not talking about the subject or whatever, let's try to remember. Oh, children. So I think Paul's talking about, we don't cut each other off as far as our, how do I say it? Our marriage obligations to one another, our needs in that fashion, unless you both agree. So really, if you're cutting off your spouse in that manner without their consent, it's going against Paul's admonition. He says it's not a commandment. So that would kind of be a vow. I'm going to not do such and such for 3 days or whatever, kind of a thing. But if you're married and it involves your spouse, or you're a young lady or whatever in your father's house, and he doesn't agree to that, then you can't, according to the commandment. That all make pretty good sense? And 1 Corinthians 7 is all about, marriage and abstaining from basically sex in one form or a fashion, all through there, marriage advice and everything, avoiding fornication. But I guess it would apply to any vow. This is just what popped in my mind as sort of an example. Any other questions, comments, insights, revelations? So if you're like single or divorced or a widow or whatever, it wouldn't matter, right? So okay, verse 12. But if her husband has utterly made them void on the day he heard them, he said, no, I don't agree to that. Then whatsoever proceeded out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband has made them void, and Yah shall forgive her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul, that's sort of an old Hebrew idiom for fasting and praying, afflicting your soul. Her husband may establish it, or her husband may make it void. But if her husband altogether hold his peace at her from day to day, then he establishes all her vows or all her bonds which are upon her, he confirms them, because he held his peace at her in the day that he heard them. But if he shall in any way make them void after that he has heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. Then he'll incur the punishment, basically, for breaking it. These are the statutes which Yah commanded Moshe, between a man and his wife, between the father and his daughter, yet being yet in her youth in her father's house. Something else that popped in my mind is sort of this in a familiar example for all of us, is when a lot of preachers will say something at a wedding, you know, say, what is the wording? Say it now or forever hold your peace, kind of a thing. I think is kind of what this is. You know, if any man disagrees with this or whatever, speak now or forever hold your peace, he'll say. And that's sort of the same thing, kind of thing going on, I think. Questions, comments, insights, revelations? Okay. The Midbar 31, chapter 31. And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward shall you be gathered under your people. And Moshe spoke unto the people, saying, arm some of yourselves unto the war, and let them go against the Midianites, and avenge Yah of Midian. Of every tribe 1,000. Throughout all the tribes of Israel shall you send to the war. And this, sadly, is the last assignment given to Moshe to carry out Yah's vengeance on the Midianites for reasons detailed in Numbers 25, verse 16. Numbers 25, verse 16. And Yah spoke to Moses, saying, harass the Midianites and strike them down, for they have harassed you with their wiles, with which they beguiled you in the matter of Peor, in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of the chief of Midian, their sister, who was killed on the day of the plague on the account of Peor. And we learn in other parts that the Midianites had learned all this, trying to get Yah to curse Israel. They had learned it by the counsel of Balaam. So that would be the doctrine of Balaam, is, right, it's okay to mix Yah's practices and Canaanite practices and all this other stuff, is kind of the doctrine of Balaam, which comes up in the book of Jude. I believe it's verse 11. Okay. Verse 5, so there were delivered out of the thousands of Israel 1,000 of every tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them to the war, 1,000 of every tribe, them and Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, to the war with the holy instruments and the silver trumpets to blow in his hand. And they warred against the Midianites as Yah commanded Moshe, and they killed all the males. I think that's kind of important, because some of the tribes and stuff they go against, they're commanded to destroy everybody, or, you know, man, woman, animals, everything, but not all of them. So it's my personal suspicion, I won't insist on this, that the Midianites didn't have Nephilim stuff going on. Okay, this is just a normal war. Only people in the battle are killed and stuff. But this was a holy war, basically. As the presence of Phinehas, the priest, with the 12,000 fighting men attested, a holy war differed from other kinds in that Yah himself led the armies, like in Joshua 5, I believe it is, Jericho. Actually, Joshua didn't lead the army, but the angel or messenger of Yah did, whoever that might be. Questions, comments, insights, revelations? The selecting a certain number of the tribes reminded me of the 144,000 of Revelation. Whether it's connected or not, I don't know. Something to think on, to chew on. Verse 8, and they killed the kings of Midian, beside the rest of them that were slain, namely Evi. Thinking of that little thing, Nicole's, that little clip of the guy trying to pronounce names. Aaron. I'm sorry. Namely Evi, and Rechem, and Zur, and Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. Balaam also, the son of Beor, they killed with the sword. What's Balaam doing there? Except he had chosen not to go with Yah's people, but to go back and teach his own doctrines and things to these Midianites. And the children of Israel took all the women of Midian captives and their little ones, and took the spoil of all their cattle and all their flocks and all their goods. And they burnt all their cities wherein they dwelt, and their goodly encampments, could possibly be translated fortresses there, with fire. Okay. Verse 11, they took all the spoil and all the prey, both of men and of beasts, and they brought the captives and the prey and the spoil unto Moshe and Eleazar the priest, and unto the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the camp at the plains of Moab, which are by Jordan near Jericho, or Jordan near Jericho. And Moshe and Eleazar the priest and all the princes of the congregation went forth to meet them without the camp, or outside the camp. And Moses was angry with the officers of the army, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds, which came from the battle. And Moses said unto them, have you saved all the women alive? Behold, these caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against Yah in the matter of Peor. And there was a plague among the congregation of Yah. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that has known man by lying with him, but all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. And do you abide you without or outside the camp 7 days. Whoever has killed any person, and whosoever has touched any slain, purify both yourselves and your captives on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And I might add, that might have kind of been a defense against the psychological effects of warfare, that these guys stay outside the camp and, kind of collect themselves and everything before they just rush back in. Might kind of be, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A defense against the PTSD and stuff, kind of a thing.
They had to, they were following those cleansing laws. I found those cleansing laws of the dead, Numbers 19, 11 through 22. So he was just telling them to follow that law.
Okay. Thank you.
So I got a little confused when it said something about the wives or whoever had been with the Midianites should have been killed. So it was just, I'm sorry, was it just the young women and little children that were supposed to be saved and not any of the wives of the Midianites?
It was all the virgin girls.
Okay. So it was like the young maidens and the small children.
Yeah, even the little boys were killed.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, too soon at the beginning of the passage.
Maybe it's to prevent
So all that
like,
kind of got amended.
growing up and taking revenge.
What'd you say, Sherry?
Yeah, probably.
Could it be like like a wife or a son when they grow up, they may be more prone to wanting to take revenge?
Oh, yeah.
So if you remove that, then probably it would be less likely revenge would take place. That's how I took it.
Yep. I know it's happened before
Yeah.
in scriptures.
This stuff. Yeah, this stuff is pretty heavy stuff coming from Yah, to go out and kill people and things. But we have to remember that there are worse things than physical death.
Mm.
It may have been some sort of a mercy kill in many ways, you know what I'm saying? But they were purposely trying to thwart God's plan through the Council of Balaam and stuff. They were, they weren't committing anything out of ignorance. It was their goal to go in, infiltrate, and cause them to err and everything, the children of Israel.
Yeah. And I
So
mean,
they weren't really innocent victims.
we have to remember that he knows everything. He knows what they're going to be. And I guess just reading scripture, it helps me. He knows what would happen if he would have left them alive type situation.
Yeah. Stuff like this, I kind of think about, and it would be tough. It's a tough situation if you had little baby Adolf Hitler in your arms. You know what I'm saying? If you were commanded by Yah to end the child's life, it would thwart the Holocaust and his own sins, maybe saving his soul by doing something that on the surface seems horrible. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty. These are pretty heavy.
Children's souls definitely makes more sense when you put it like that. Knowing what they would grow up to be, and then taking their lives before the age of 20
Right.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sort of a mercy kill.
Yeah.
And that's tough. But these children may be in the resurrection or heaven or however you view that. And we'll see. They'll understand then and can grow up in a perfect place and not have to worry about whatever, the lake of fire and all these other things that they may have encountered, haven't been able to grow up and stuff.
Mm.
And Yah's wisdom is far above our own in matters like this. So we just have to trust him sometimes when things seem tough or weird or something. He knows more about what's going on than us. So, verse 20, and purify all your raiment, like Nicole pointed out. We're following Levitical laws, basically. It's not just a general purification, it's ritualistic. And all that is made of skins, and all work of goat's hair, and all things made of wood. And Eleazar the priest said unto the men of war which went to battle, this is the ordinance of the law which Yah commanded Moses. I guess he's kind of reminding them too that we already got all this wrote down, what to do. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that may abide the fire, you shall make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall be purified with the water of separation, and all that abides not the fire you shall make go through the water. And you shall wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you shall be clean, and afterward you shall come into the camp. And that water of separation is a specific thing too. We went over the water of the ashes of the red heifer and all that. And that's kind of got a spiritual cleansing fire and stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's a spiritual thing going on and underlying these passages too. And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, take the sum of the prey that was taken, both of man and of beast, you and Eleazar the priest and the chief fathers of the congregation, and divide the prey into 2 parts between them that took the war upon them who went out to battle, and between all the congregation. And levy a tribute unto Yah of the men of war which went out to battle, 1 soul of 500, both of the persons and of the beeves and of the asses and of the sheep. Take it of their half and give it unto Eleazar the priest for a heave offering of Yah. And of the children of Israel half, you shall take Israel's half, you shall take 1 portion of 50 of the persons, of the beeves, of the asses, of the flocks, of all manner of beasts, and give them unto the Levites which keep the charge of the tabernacle of Yah. And Moses and Eleazar the priest did as Yah commanded Moses, and the booty, being the rest of the prey which the men of war had caught, was 600,000 and 7,000 and 5,000 sheep. One of those King James. Your all's translations are probably better on that. And 60 and 12,000 beeves, and 61,000 asses, and 30 and 2,000 persons in all of women that had not known man by lying with him. And the half, which was the portion of them that went out to war, was in number 300,000 and 7 and 30,000 and 500 sheep. And Yah's tribute of the sheep was 660 and 15, probably 75, 675. And the beeves were 30 and 6,000. So sometimes I hate it, and sometimes I love it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. And the beeves were 30 and 6,000, of which Yah's tribute was 60 and 12. Again, that's probably 72. I went through and replaced all the scores with an actual number, and it made it worse. That's a bunch of animals.
I know. Is anyone else like completely flabbergasted by the amount of people not only left over, but the amount of animals? I mean, I don't know, I'm small town girl, and I'm just kind of like, how many people?
Yeah. That's a pretty significant catch. I'll go through that later. Got to fix the Bible. Or just rely on a translation. I can't. Okay. Oh boy, where did I leave off? Verse 39. Oh, let's stop for questions, comments, insights, revelations.
And you were talking about the spiritual stuff, verse 23 and verse 24. The going through the fire and the washing your clothes. It made me think of that. The baptisms, the spiritual baptism, the water baptism.
Yeah, that comes up a bunch of times, like the refiner's fire and things. The washing in the water of the word comes up in, I think it's the book of Ephesians somewhere. And
Yeah. I circled this one, Zechariah 13:9. I don't know why. When I was reading earlier. Where's Zechariah at?
it's in the Old Testament.
It's close to Matthew, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
13:9, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yah is my Elohim.
Amen. There's a similar passage in, is it Malachi or Micah?
I don't know.
My Bible commentary has references to Isaiah 1:25 through 26, Isaiah 48, verse 10, and then Hosea as well.
For the fire thing?
For the refining, yeah.
Malachi chapter 3. No, chapter 2. Malachi chapter 2. No, it is chapter 3. I'm sorry. Yeah, verse 2. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner
Yes.
and purifier of silver. And he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Is that what you were looking for?
That's it exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it exactly. I think Paul also talks about vessels of honor and dishonor and sort of a refiner's fire process too. Every man's deeds and stuff being tried. I think same sort of flavor of spiritual refinement, I believe. I don't know where that is either. Corinthians, First Corinthians somewhere.
I have a 1 Peter 1:7 reference, and then also a Revelation 3:18 reference for all of that, abiding in the fire. I know we haven't read it yet, but it's so cool with Sarah bringing up the numbers. 12 tribes took out like 1,000 people per tribe, so they all marched, and they killed all the men, and they brought back all the animals, and there were 32,000 women left, virgin women left. And again, we haven't gotten to it yet, but verse 49 tells us that verse 49 tells us that they had nobody died. They didn't lose one person of Israel in this battle. It's wild, the numbers. Yeah. I think anytime that the Bible gives us numbers of these people, it's kind of mind-boggling. Like, that is a lot of people.
Yeah. See, a lot of people think of the children of Israel at this time just being kind of a small group or whatever, but there's some estimates put it up in like 3 million people and stuff. Those are estimates and everything, but that's crazy. And you think, boy, that's what Yah had this is what Yah had in mind when he told Abraham, your descendants will be like the sand of the sea. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome. How we went from one guy, Abraham, and in whatever it's been, 500 years, to this gigantic army, and they're serving Yah and following him everywhere, and he's with them, and pillars of cloud, and that's so awesome to me. Absolutely came to pass what he told his friend Abraham. What was that Isaiah reference? I want to track that Sarah had. Isaiah 1:11.
It was more talking about the refining. It wasn't really in reference to the Numbers passage we were looking at. It was something to do with whatever other passage we were looking at.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Isaiah 1.
Well, we'll press on. 125.
Yeah, if you wanted to look it up.
Yeah. And I will turn my hand upon you and purely purge away your dross and take away all your tin. And I will restore your judges at the first and your counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, you shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. So, yeah, I was talking about the refinement process and stuff there, too. Frequently used idiom. But it's so true, sort of a lot of churchianity kind of promises blessings and everything's going to work out and be good, and it will. But in the meantime, you know what I'm saying? There's stuff. And we all are right in the midst of our own stuff, but we're together supporting each other and everything. There's refinements. There are, I'm not quite sure why, but that's how it is. And a lot of churchianity forget about all that stuff. They don't prepare people for, once you go down the sawdust trail to the altar and give your life to him and stuff, it's not all roses and stuff. You know what I'm saying? He says, take up your cross and follow me. It's an instrument of death. We're going to die with him kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not a pleasant process sometimes. But in the end, we'll come out the better. What does Paul say? We know that all things work together for the good for those who love him, Christ, right? So in the end, we'll be better informed, better prepared. We'll know what to do. That's the main thing. The Bible has all the answers, and where we're going through stuff, we just need we need to be so familiar with his word that we know where to go. Well, what do I do when XYZ happens, or if I feel down and out or whatever? It's being able to find the passages in the Bible you need is the main thing. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Psalm says to hide his word in your heart. You'll know, kind of tracking it down is the main thing. Tracking down the passages you need to answer the question that you have or the situation you're going through and stuff, and it's all in there. We just have to get at it. What verse? I forgot what verse we left off on. Man, I'm all
I think it was verse 40, verse 39.
Okay. And the asses were 30,500, of which Yah's tribute was 60 and 1. That's verse 39. Verse 40. And the persons were 16,000, of which Yah's tribute was 32 persons. And Moses gave the tribute, which was Yah's heave offering, unto Eleazar the priest, as Yah commanded Moses. And the children of Israel's half, which Moses divided from the men that warred. And we have like sort of a little editor note or something here. In parentheses, now the half that pertained unto the congregation was 300,000 and 30,000 and 7,000. 337,500 and 6,000 beeves and 30,000 asses and 500 and 16,000 persons. Even of the children of Israel's half, Moses took one portion of 50, both of man and of beast, and gave them unto the Levites, which kept the charge of the tabernacle of Yah, as Yah commanded Moses. And the officers which were over thousands of the army, the captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, came near unto Moses, and they said unto Moses, your servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and there lacks not one man of us. So, like Nicole pointed out, I think it's trying to tell us that not a single person died in the battle, which has got to be supernatural. That's just kind of a conjecture, but I don't know how else you could really explain that. He goes on, they go on, and they say, we have therefore brought an oblation for Yah, like an offering, what every man has gotten of jewels of gold, chains and bracelets, rings, earrings, and tablets, to make an atonement for our souls before Yah. And Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold of them, even all wrought or worked jewels, and all the gold of the offering that they offered up to Yah, of the captains of thousands, of the captains of hundreds, which was 16,750 shekels. For the men of war had taken spoil, every man for himself. And Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold of the captains of the thousands and of the hundreds, and brought it under the tabernacle of the congregation for a memorial for the children of Israel before Yah, the Lord. Questions, comments, insights, revelations?
I have a quick question. So as far as the people that Moses took, was he using women for the Levites in the tabernacle, or I'm confused on what that's about?
Yeah, I think some like commentators and stuff speculate that these 32 women were sort of helpers in the tabernacle to the priests and stuff. they would kind of, I don't want to, would be servants. I don't like using the word slaves because we're talking a different thing.
Right.
And if they followed the law correctly, they would release them after 7 years, yes?
Right. That's what I thought too.
Right. Especially if they started following the laws and customs and basically became Israelites. After 7 years, they could be free, and not only that, they would, you know, benefit from all the laws and stuff of the poor and the destitute, and they would get tithes and be supported. And kind of, you might come across there might be some unwritten, like Book of Ruth stories. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's weird
going
to
on
me.
behind the scenes.
It's weird reading these things when they take women captives, because there's laws about not marrying, outside of your tribe, and keeping all that money there, and then they take women captives, and you just assume that there's going to be love stories there. There's going to be people that, like, what are they using them for? Those women are going to be, they're going to grow up. They're going to want families of their own. What do you do with that? How do they, when they become Israelites, then are they allowed to marry them because they're not, part of a tribe? How does that? I've always wondered what they're thinking and doing. And
right, the laws of servants and stuff. First of all, they're never to be abused
mm-hmm.
in any way, physically or any other way. As far as I know, they could become basically Israelites, and there are laws, and we might come across them. I forget, it fails me where they're at, of how they could marry him. There were laws somewhere that they were to shave their heads and change their clothes from the place they came from, and basically start obeying the laws and everything. And then after 7 years or 7 days, they were clean, and they could get married and stuff. And I don't know how exactly how that works with because there are, like you said, the laws that they weren't to marry outside of their tribes and stuff. So I'm not entirely sure how that works, but there are laws of how the procedure and everything, what they were to go through if they were to be married. No, I don't know if the priest married or anything, so they would absolutely be adopted basically.
They just become part of that tribe that they marry into. Yeah, no, there's tons of women. Yeah, probably. There's tons of like examples in scripture that tell us that, all these not Israelites are in the lineage of Christ and they become Israelites. It's just weird to me.
I'm trying to Deuteronomy 21. Okay, ready? Deuteronomy 21, verse 10. I'm going to switching to the scriptures, 2009. Deuteronomy 21:10. When you go out to fight against your enemies, and Yah your Elohim shall give them into your hand, and you shall take them captive. That's what we did here. And shall see among the captives a woman fair of form, and shall delight in her, and take her for your wife. Then Yah says, okay, that's awesome. Here's what you're going to do. Then you shall bring her home to your house, and she shall shave her head and trim her nails and put aside the mantle of her captivity, the garb of her people, her clothes, and shall dwell in your house and mourn her father and her mother a month at all. I was wrong on the days. A month of days. And after that, you shall go into her, and I won't elaborate, and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. And it shall be, if you are not pleased with her, then you shall let her go at her desire. But you do not sell her at all for silver. Do not treat her harshly, since you have humbled her. Like, they basically got a divorce, but now she's not a virgin anymore, and that's to her disadvantage and stuff. So there you go. Those are the laws for the marrying of female captives.
Thanks for finding that.
You're absolutely welcome. The Holy Spirit helping me, I think. I would have never remembered that. So yeah, they would have basically become Israelites and everything. One second, I gotta turn on my AC. It's getting and I hope you don't, but you might run across some crazy sort of Torah dudes and stuff out there that start talking about sex slaves and all kinds of weird stuff with these passages, and that's not at all what's going on here. Y'all's commanding them to treat them fair, not harshly, don't abuse them, and whatever. If you end up not liking them, they get to go away free and clear. They could go back to their own people if they really wanted. So anybody saying that stuff is just twisting the words of Yah. Moving into chapter 32. Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. We just seen that was just the stuff that they just collected, okay? So there's a bunch of cows and people moving through this wilderness. And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that, behold, the place was a place for cattle. This came up in group discussion. I forget when and who asked the question. Okay, the children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spoke unto Moses and to Eleazar the priest and unto the princes of the congregation, saying, Adaroth and Dibon and Jazer and Nimrah and Heshbon and Elialah and Shabam and Nebo and Beon, even the country which Yah smote before the congregation of Israel, is a land for cattle, and your servants have cattle. So it might have been nice I don't know what it's like. I think we're talking basically the Golan Heights, modern day Golan Heights. Might be big and flat and perfect for cattle farming. And it comes up in scripture sometime. It's also called Bashan. And you hear a lot about the bulls of Bashan in Psalms. And Yeshua even said it on the cross for some reason. Okay. Wherefore, said they, if we have found grace in your sight, let this land be given unto your servants for a possession, and bring us not over Jordan. So we're on the east side of the Jordan River. Okay, Gilead is bounded on the north by Bashan and on the south by Moab. Laid out in Genesis 31:21, Deuteronomy 3:12 through 17, a deep ravine of the river Hiramax, probably not pronouncing that right, separated Bashan from Gilead, which was about 60 miles in length and 20 miles in breadth, extending from near the south end of the Sea of Galilee to the north end of the Dead Sea. For anybody curious about that. I saw something in chat. Oh, I must be just catching up or something. Okay. And Moses said unto the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war, and shall you sit here? Moses is getting mad. And wherefore discourage the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which Yah has given them. He's saying this is not good for morale. What are you doing? Thus did your fathers when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. Okay, Moses's initial reaction to Reuben and Gad's request was unfavorable because he was afraid that their unwillingness to cross the Jordan and dispossess the Canaanites would undermine the morale of the other tribes who might also want to stay where they were. They will stop, okay? Their fathers, their ancestors, he said, had done this very thing when they listened to the report of the spies and lost heart about the conquest. And this all happened in Numbers 14. Okay, this had caused Yah to be angry, and he caused that generation to repeat the sin of their fathers. This wasn't their intent, actually. But Moses was making everything clear, probably here. Verse 9, and when they went up unto the valley of Eshcol, and saw the land, he's recounting the Numbers 14 Kadesh Barnea thing. They discouraged the heart of the children of Israel that they should not go into the land which Yah had given them. He's saying, guys, this is why we've been wandering around in the desert all this time. And Yah's anger was kindled the same time, and he swore, saying, surely none of the men that came up out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swore unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me. Save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed Yah. There were 2 witnesses that had a good report. Revelation 11, anybody? Ding a ding. Right. Okay, and Yah's anger was kindled against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of Yah was consumed. And behold, you are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men to augment yet the fierce anger of Yah toward Israel. For if you turn away from after him, he will yet again lead them in the wilderness, and you shall destroy all this people. Okay? And they came near unto him and said, we will build sheepfolds, barns, basically, here for our cattle, and cities for our little ones. But we ourselves will go ready, armed before the children of Israel, until we have brought them unto their place, and our little ones shall dwell in the fenced cities because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return unto our houses until the children of Israel have inherited every man his inheritance. So either they changed their mind real quick, or that wasn't their original intention, but they said, well, we'll just call this ours, but we'll continue on in the campaign with you and leave behind our families and cattle. And that would probably work out in their favor as a strategy, because I'm sure the cattle and children and everything would slow things down a little bit, getting them moving, you know what I'm saying? Okay, and I wish Christopher was here, because he asked the question last week or week before about this very thing, whether they were leaving people behind them to protect the places they were taking over or not. And the answer is yeah, at least in this event. Okay, this was a good policy in leaving a sufficient force to protect the conquered region, lest the enemy should attempt reprisals. And as only 40,000 of the Reubenites and the Gadites and a half tribe of Manasseh passed over the Jordan in Joshua 4:13. There were left for the security of the new possessions 7,580 men, beside women and children under 20 years, because I got that from passages Numbers 26, verses 7, 18, and 34. Okay, verse 19, for we will not inherit with them on yonder side, Jordan, or forward, because our inheritance is fallen to us on this side, Jordan, eastward. They're saying, we found this is the perfect place for us. And Moses said unto them, if you will do this thing, if you will go armed before Yah to war, and will go all of you armed over Jordan before Yah, until he has driven out his enemies from before him. Notice whose enemies are they? And the land be subdued before Yah, then afterward you shall return and be guiltless before Yah and before Israel, and this land shall be your possession before Yah. Okay, here's an important verse. But if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against Yah, and be sure your sin will find you out. Okay, and a lot of old-fashioned Southerners and stuff still use this phrase. This is where it comes from. Be sure your sin will find you out. Comes from the King James Version Bible right there. So any failure to do what they said they were going to do, to go to war and help everybody else out, would be a sin. And this all became a proverb in the English language, and we've smushed it down to just, your sin will find you out. Shabbat Shalom, Christopher. Thanks for joining us. Lola was in here for a minute, and she might have had something to do. I don't know, or said something in chat.
I've
The
been here
big bar,
since
32. What?
I've been here since 10:30. You just missed me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, 9:30 your time, I guess.
I'm behind the thing. So they were going to leave behind their families and stuff, and a sufficient amount of men to protect the possession there, and go on over. Verse 24, build you cities for your little ones and folds for your sheep, and do that which has proceeded out of your mouth. See where we're talking about vows earlier, right? And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spoke unto Moses, saying, your servants will do as my Lord commands. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and all of our cattle shall be there in the cities of Gilead, but your servants will pass over, every man armed for war before Yah to battle, as my Lord said. So concerning them, Moses commanded Eleazar the priest, and Joshua the son of Nun, and the chief fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. And Moses said unto them, if the children of Gad and the children of Reuben will pass with you over Jordan, every man armed to battle before Yah, and the land shall be subdued before you, then you shall give them the land of Gilead for a possession. But if they will not pass over with you armed, they shall have possessions among you in the land of Canaan. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, as Yah has said unto your servants, so will we do. We will pass over armed before Yah into the land of Canaan, that the possession of our inheritance on this side of Jordan may be ours. And Moses gave unto them, even to the children of Gad and to the children of Reuben and unto the half tribe of Manasseh. See, that's the half tribe of Manasseh, I don't think is mentioned super often, but they weren't fighting or anything. They just, half of them thought this was a good idea too. Okay. Verse 33 there. Moses gave unto them even the children of Gad and the children of Reuben and unto the half tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan. See, that kind of seals the deal on this is part of Bashan and stuff. The land with the cities thereof in the coast or the borders, even the cities of the country all around. And the children of Gad built Dibon and Ataroth and Aror and Atroth and Shophan and Jazer and Jegabah, cities, other cities, and Beth Nimrah and Beth Haran, fenced cities and folds for the sheep. So Moses allots to Reuben, Gad, half tribe of Manasseh. This is the first mention of this half tribe that belonged to the Amorite king Sihon and Og. Og is from Bashan, king of Bashan. Sihon had ruled in the southern part, Gilead, and Og in the north, just Bashan. And the Gadites rebuilt cities in southern Gilead, so on and so forth. Okay. So the Reubenite cities were generally sort of from Heshbon west and southwest to the Jordan and to the Dead Sea. So Reuben was more or less a west central enclave within Gad. Just some commentary notes there. And the children of Reuben built Heshbon and Elaleah and Kirjathiham. Some of these are, I'm sorry. And Nebo and Baal-Maon, their names being changed. We have an editor's note. And Shibmah, and gave other names unto the cities which they built. And the children of Machir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it and dispossessed the Amorite which was in it. Okay, and Moses gave Gilead unto Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he dwelt therein. And Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and took the small towns thereof, and called them Havoth Jair. And Nobah went and took Kenath and the villages thereof and called it Nobah after his own name. Questions, comments, insights, revelations? Yeah, lots of wordy word names.
That was just a whole lot of names and stuff I could barely even read or pronounce. So thank you for doing it.
I'll give you.
Well, I apologize to all these people and their tribes and ancestors for mispronouncing.
Hey, Derek. I'll give you $1 if when you get to verse 15, you just start saying from Rephidim to Sinai, from this to this.
Oh, yeah?
It really bugs me when, I don't know, when I get to what we're about to get to from like 15 to 36 in scriptures, when it does that over and over again, where they say the exact same thing for like 20 verses, and I'm listening to it on my phone or something, I'm like, and skip that chapter. I'm so bad.
No. Skipping things is how we miss things. There might be some wonderful, if nothing else, you could sit and map it out if we knew where these places still were, you know what I'm saying?
We could map it out, but
We
we're
can,
not mapping it out. And there's nothing wonderful to be found there. I looked.
we don't know. The meanings of the names or something could,
No, you can say the names.
it's important.
You just don't say,
But-
and they removed from and pitched at. You just don't say those words. Removed from and pitched at. There's nothing wonderful there, right?
No. Well, I tell you what, and I normally don't do this. I don't like to compromise and not do what we promised we would do. But if you guys will listen or read to the next chapter down to verse 37, we'll just kind of skip on to. Okay, we're going to kind of skip, even though I don't like that.
You can say all the names. Say all the names real fast.
Okay, chapter 33, we'll kind of do an amended little, I'm going to catch the narratives and stuff in there. And when it comes to where they're moving to and from and all that, we'll just kind of skip over it, okay? Chapter 33, verse 1, these are the journeys of the children of Israel, which went forth out of the land of Egypt with their armies under the hand of Moses and Aaron. And Moses wrote their goings out according to the journeys by the commandment of Yah. And these are their journeys according to their goings out. I do want to read verse 3 that because I like it. And they departed from Ramses in the first month on the 15th day of the first month, the day after Passover. I've seen some questions. Did they go Passover night or the day after? And right here's your scripture evidence that they went the day after. See, let's not skip chapters. The children of Israel went out with a high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians.
I said verse 15 through like 37.
That's how. Okay, we'll go down to verse 15 then. So according to this verse, that's not my opinion or anything, they went the day after Passover, which would have been the 15th, which brings up another question. Technically, isn't the 15th, the first day of unleavened bread, is a high holy day. They're not supposed to work and stuff. So
Yeah, but Egypt kicked them out.
I don't know what you think. Well, it said they went with a high hand, which
Yes.
I kind of read was like they weren't defeated and like kicked out. They were like, we're out of here.
I like that though.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't stop it.
With Egypt, with them having to leave Egypt so quickly on the 15th day, which is supposed to be a high holy day, a convocation day, a no work day. It reminds me of when Yeshua says, it's good to do good on the Sabbath. It's good to heal and to take care of and things like that. They were literally saving their lives, and it didn't really matter what day that was. So it kind of, I feel like it reinforced
Right.
that.
Right. Amen. A weightier matter was going on. See?
Yeah.
It's not just in rules and regulations and stuff. It's there are priorities to consider.
Yeah.
So anyway, cool little detail.
With the
And that they went out with a high hand, to me, I think another. What?
With the Maccabean revolt, when they were, it's not in, but when they were being killed, when the Jews were being killed and attacked on the Sabbath because their enemies knew that they wouldn't fight back on the Sabbath, and they finally got tired of it, and they're like, you know what, I think we can protect ourselves on the Sabbath now. So because of all of the rules and extras placed on them, they thought that they couldn't even defend themselves. So, but had they looked back to Scripture, they would have known that they could have defended themselves.
Right. See, that's something maybe we'll get to in chapter 35, I believe. Something I like to point out with the commandment, you shall not murder, a lot of people get all kind of bent out of shape, especially like veterans and stuff, because they have killed other people. But it says you shall not murder. We're talking cold-blooded, first-degree murder. Like, killing someone in a battle is not murder. You see what I'm saying? And different types of murder, accidental, what we would call like manslaughter and stuff, are all handled differently by God's law. So if you accidentally kill somebody, it's not murder, it's something else. And because I've ran into guys, not just guys, but women and stuff, who, because of that commandment, say they basically won't defend themselves from a attacker or something, like with a weapon. And I disagree with that. And I believe the law of God also, self-defense is not murder. See, and it's handled differently. And God, I believe, will handle that situation separately. Defending yourself is not murder. If someone attacks you or your family or something, do not hesitate to defend yourself, because that's a completely different situation. And we're going to get to it in, I think it's chapter 35. I'll just be completely honest with you. I haven't read this for a while. I should have read it this week and everything, but had a lot going on. But anyway, I think it's 35, because 36 is daughters of Zelophehad again, I believe. So anyway, okay, they departed from Ramses, not the Pharaoh, I think that's a place name, Ramses, in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, the day after Passover. The children of Israel went out. I'm going to highlight that in mine, because that might be important in the future when somebody asks, did they leave on the 14th on Passover night or not? And this says the next day, so I don't know. For the Egyptians buried all their firstborn, which Yah had smitten among them. Upon their gods also Yah executed judgments. Now, if you weren't with me in the Torah portions back in Exodus, all of the plagues and everything were sort of against Egyptian gods. There was like a god of the Nile. So Yah said, oh, you think that guy controls the Nile? Nah, I'm going to make it blood. And there was a god of flies and stuff. And oh, well, you think that guy controls flies? Deal with this kind of a thing. You know what? He was showing that he is God, and these guys are just statues or something. That he's more powerful than them. I personally believe that idols and stuff represent demonic entities, real spirits, but that's another thing. Even so, one way or the other, Yah is more powerful than they are, and that's he was showing the people of Egypt that too. Okay, and they went from place to place all through the desert and camped and went through the desert. Verse 9, and they removed from Marah and came into Elim, and Elim were 12 fountains of water and 70 palm trees, and camped there. That comes up in a documentary I watched by Bob Cornuke called Mountain of Fire, where he thinks, and other good scholars and stuff think, Mount Sinai was not where St. Catherine's is in the Sinai Peninsula, where most Bible study helps and stuff track it to. It's actually in Saudi Arabia and Jabal al-Lawz or thereabouts. And he uses verses like this to track down. He actually found a place that had 70 palm trees and 12 cisterns and stuff. So it might be important, anybody trying to track down where Sinai is. There are some other guys. I don't think Bob Cornuke was the first to come up with this, and he kind of gets blasted he kind of made it sound like that in his documentary. There are other guys who also have been doing this, but check them out. That one's called, it's either Fire on the Mountain or Mountain of Fire, Bob Cornuke. And there are others and guys that made sort of this discovery earlier than him. Okay, so, but that little detail there helped him out. Anyway, or he stole it from somebody or something. Okay, and they went out and came in and went places. I actually have a little graph thing that tracks the actual events and stuff, but they were removed from and camped in, removed from and camped in and camped there and camped in there, and in the edge of Edom, verse 38. Okay? And Aaron the priest went up into Mount Hor at the commandment of Yah and died there in the 40th year after the children of Israel were come out of the land of Egypt in the first day of the 5th month. So by the text, we're 40 years out from Egypt, which would make it, 470 years removed from when Jacob went down into Israel, him and his sons. Okay. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died. That's awesome. Okay, the day of Aaron's death is important for dating events, for people who like to date events and track all this stuff down and see how true and everything the scripture really is. There's no way somebody made up all these teeny tiny details. Okay, beginning with the first Passover, the record covers 40 years and ends with a picture of Israel's armies stretched out alongside the Jordan between two places several miles apart. And their first high priest, Aaron, passes away. It must have been a sad day. Okay, and they dwelt places and departed and camped and departed and camped and removed and encamped and camped and removed and went. And I have a map. Verse 50. And Yah spoke unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan, near Jericho, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you and destroy all their graven images, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places. Okay, passages like that kind of bother me because it makes me feel like I need to visit the nearby Catholic cathedral and start flipping tables and knocking statues over and stuff. I don't know if that would be right or not, but stuff like that. But he's not saying we need to coexist and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Go in there and tear all that stuff down is what he's saying. That's maybe not what he's saying to us. Okay, I don't want to make it sound Derek's got some crazy ideas or whatever, but the day may come. The Yah commands some armies or something to do a similar thing. Don't be horribly surprised. Okay. Verse. Anybody want to talk about that? Questions, comments, insights, revelations? Okay, verse 53, and you shall dispossess the inhabitants of the land and dwell therein, for I have given you the land to possess it. And you shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families, and to the more you shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer you shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falls, according to the tribes of your fathers you shall inherit. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass, Yah's prophesy, that those which you let remain of them shall be pricks in your ears and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein you dwell. Read the book of Judges. That's exactly what happened. Okay. Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them. And that's pretty scary. So the land is given to them according to Yah's promise to Abraham. It was distributed by lot over and over again through scriptures. We have evidence of that, which I think are kind of like old-fashioned dice, basically, kind of a thing. Probably find you a good Bible dictionary or encyclopedia or something. Help us out with that. Okay, the command to drive out the nations, destroy their idols and their high places comes up over and over again. Deuteronomy 7, Deuteronomy 12, Exodus 23, Exodus 34, Leviticus 20, Leviticus 20, verses 1 through 5, 22 through 26, Deuteronomy 13, Deuteronomy 29. Well, we won't visit those, I guess.
And then you see all that play out in Kings and Chronicles and where they don't. And
yeah. Had they, and I'm not judging them or whatever, but had Joshua and them really, had they all done exactly what Yah wanted them, they would have been into the land within a couple weeks of leaving Egypt. Had they dispossessed and done all that they were commanded to the inhabitants, Israel might stretch from where it is now all the way to Kuwait and up into Iraq and down into Saudi Arabia and stuff, and still be there today kind of stuff. There wouldn't have been any Philistines and all that stuff going on had they been more thorough in their campaign against them. But they got complacent, kind of lukewarm. Maybe let's coexist and all this other stuff. And you can't coexist with people who want you dead. Okay? That's just simple logic. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a little bit extreme. Not like some of the people I've been compared to recently. I'm going to bring that up. Man, serious? Anyway.
Just breathe.
Okay, I think it's interesting that under the command of Moshe, the children of Israel dealt with most of the Amalekites, the Amorites, and the Rephaim in the book of Numbers. And then Joshua deals with 7 other tribes: the Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, the Amorites, Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites, although they weren't all fully destroyed either, because David encountered Jebusites too. They were original inhabitants of what we now call Jerusalem. And I say all that because I think there is an under the surface hint that the book of Joshua is sort of a reflection of what Yeshua is going to do, what we call the book of Revelation. Seven nations are going to be dealt with. A beast with 7 heads. You know what I'm saying? A guy named Yahushua, dispossessing the land of unbelievers, and all that. He sends in 2 witnesses, and it's all very prophetic, I think. That bad guys hide in caves and tell the mountains to fall on them to hide from Joshua, the warrior of God. And I think that's all very interesting, but that's just a side note. This is a long portion.
It is a long portion. Do you think that they changed, they took Jesus's name from the Hebrew and turned it into the Greek and the Latin and the English to turn it into Jesus to kind of distract us from the fact that it probably should have been Joshua in English? Because it really, had it been Joshua, I think a lot more connections would be made.
Well, I don't know. I see the translation of it from Hebrew into Greek if your main audience speaks Greek and not Hebrew. But the change from the Greek to the English, it should have been Joshua. Now, why they didn't translate it as Joshua, I don't know. That is a very good question.
I mean, they did the Latin because everybody wanted it in Latin, so nobody could read the Bible, right? Because the Catholic Church and everybody, they wanted like nobody to be able to read the Bible, and if you wanted her to hear it, you'd have to know how to speak Latin or read Latin.
Yeah, they wanted it to remain Latin. Now, I think the original intent of any translator is so people can read what they're doing. what they took the Vulgate, the Latin translation, and they tried to, well, it was illegal to translate it, the Bible, according to the Catholic Church in the Dark Ages and stuff. You know what I mean? And well, Mr. Christopher Kane's been doing some research into translations and stuff. Maybe he'd like to speak on this. But I think their intent was to, sorry, one more little thing. Their intent was to keep it in Latin so people couldn't read it, but that's not what we're supposed to be doing, really. Go ahead, Mr. Kane.
Yeah, I don't think there was any intentions for it to be hidden. I think it just went from, from Aramaic and Hebrew to Greek and to Latin and then to Old English, where it was originally pronounced Jesus, until the J sound come along. But I really don't think it was intentional. But the way God does things, like it requires you to dive deeper into the Bible, dive deeper into the Hebrew and Greek, so you can discover that the translation, if you go directly from Hebrew to English, is Joshua. So once you see that, and then you can see all the parallels in the prophetic nature. But in my opinion, I don't think it was intentional. But once you look deep into it, it's really beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think no matter what anybody's intention, whether it was just kind of lost in translation or intentional or whatever, Yah is waking people up. He is showing them the truth. Knowledge is increasing in the last days, and it will continue to, I believe, up until the very end. It's all going to come out in the wash, as we might say. You know what I'm saying? All the truth and everything is going to come to light, and y'all will see to it that people know the truth.
Yeah, I believe that,
I believe.
I definitely believe that, because we are in the end days. Knowledge is increasing, I said in Daniel 12:4. And, I've been following prophecy the last couple of years, and it's just now really sinking in on the meaning of everything. And it's coming to life now like it wasn't before. And that's why people have buried the Old Testament. They buried the prophets, because there's no way they can figure it out. But right now, people are really understanding it a lot more, connecting it with the New Testament and how everything relates. And I think it's an exciting time right now, because I think we are in the great truth awakening in the end times, and people that are going to dive in and really see the truth are the true watchmen we have right now. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like, I believe it was Zechariah saying that Jerusalem would be a stone. I better look that up. Basically saying that the whole world is going to wonder what to do with Jerusalem, how big of a burden it was. Now, when he wrote that was, if you put yourself in their place, we're talking a little town in the middle of the desert with no natural resources. There's no harbors. There's no reason that this city should be important in the natural, logical world, except for Yah has laid claim to it. And for him to prophesy such a thing, that the whole world, I better track it down. I don't want to lead anybody astray. It's the opposite of my intentions. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Thank you. E-sword and the Holy Spirit, Zechariah 12:3. And in that day, the day of the Lord, it shall be that I make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all people, all lifting it severely injured, and all the nations of the earth shall be gathered against it. Now, that's kind of preposterous if you put yourself back in the time of when Zechariah was writing this. It wasn't even fully built again yet. You know what I mean? So, and it's built again. And all the nations of the world are wondering, what do we do with Jerusalem? You know what I mean? It's been in the news and stuff. And we're seeing prophecy come to pass before our very eyes that absolutely prove the validity and accuracy of every minute detail of Scripture. This is absolutely a book from Yah, outside of our own time domain, from a being that knows more than us and has seen the future and wrote it down before it even happened through his prophets and stuff. And I think that's, you know, and until 1947 or whatever, that Israel would become a nation again and all that was preposterous. But all these things are happening in our very life. I mean, that's a little bit before our time, 47, but it's pretty recent history, you know what I'm saying? And I think it absolutely proves that the Bible is accurate, is reliable, is, you know, we might have some translation issues and stuff to deal with, but Yah is going to take care of that with the Holy Spirit and men and scholars and everybody, whatever he needs to do to wake people up to the truth. All this stuff is happening. And all the nations of the earth is going to gather against it. According to Zechariah 12:3. That's not my opinion. Okay. Cities of refuge, Numbers 35. Here we go. And Yah spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, command the children of Israel that they give unto the Levites of the inheritance of their possession cities to dwell in. And you shall give also unto the Levites suburbs or common lands or pasture lands, depending on your translation, for the cities all around them. And the cities shall they have to dwell in, and the suburbs of them shall be for their cattle and for their goods and for their beasts. And the suburbs of the cities which you shall give unto the Levites shall reach from the wall of the city and outward 1,000 cubits all around. The city on the east side 2,000 cubits, and on the south 2,000 cubits, and on the west 2,000 cubits, and on the north 2,000 cubits. And the city shall be in the midst, or the middle. And this shall be to them the suburbs or common lands or pasture lands of the cities. Venturing further into the chapter, as a reminder, there were no or very few prisons in ancient Israel. Isn't that interesting? Verse 6, and among the cities which you shall give unto the Levites, see, they were given cities and not plots of land. There shall be 6 cities for refuge. Of these cities, there are 6 specifically for this function he's about to describe, which you shall appoint for the manslayer, that he may flee there, and to them you shall add 42 cities. So all the cities which you shall give to the Levites shall be 48 cities, them shall you give with their suburbs. So 6 cities of refuge, 48 cities in total, they inherit for their own flocks and everything. We'll talk about this manslayer guy, okay? That's basically somebody who's killed somebody. And the cities, verse 8, and the cities which you shall give shall be of the possession of the children of Israel from them, that they may that have many. Oh, hang on. Help me, Lord. From them that have many, you shall give many. But from them that have few, you shall give few. Everyone shall give of his cities unto the Levites according to his inheritance, which he inherits. So all the tribes were to basically donate certain cities to the Levites. Okay. So we're going to be talking about manslaughter, basically, and other different variations of murder. Okay, the command is actually do not murder. King James Version says kill. It's kind of a little too loosely translated. I think probably NASB and everybody corrected that. It's murder. Do not murder is the command in Exodus 20. There are other laws that cover manslaughter and things related, but not exactly like first degree murder. So self-defense in a life or death situation would be an acceptable response. That's acceptable. Okay, it's dealt with differently even by the Mosaic law. Okay, you can't really love your enemy if you're dead. Nor does a murderous enemy on a rampage leave you any opportunity to love them. So stopping a murderous rampage, somebody doing that, you're stopping them from breaking the commandment of you shall not murder. So it would be a mercy kill in a way. You're not only defending yourself, but you're stopping them from continuing to sin by murder, the punishment for which is death. So you're administering the punishment real time, basically. And we're going to go into all these. But first, verse 9, more about the cities of refuge, which is also detailed in Deuteronomy 19. Deuteronomy 19, 1 through 13, I have here as a cross-reference. Okay. And Yah spoke to Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them, when you become over Jordan, they're still on the east side of Jordan, into the land of Canaan, then you shall appoint you cities to be cities of refuge for you, that the slayer may flee there, which kills any person unawares. Okay, and they shall be unto you cities for refuge from the avenger. We got a different guy here. That the manslayer die not until he stand before the congregation in judgment. Okay, of these cities which you shall give, 6 cities shall you have for refuge. You shall give 3 cities on this side of Jordan, and 3 cities shall you give in the land of Canaan, which shall be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be a refuge, both for the children of Israel and for the stranger and for the sojourner among them, that everyone that kills any person unaware may flee there, or like it's accidental or something, okay? But if he smite him with an instrument of iron so that he die, he is a murderer. He's not a manslayer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. Okay, if he smite him with throwing a stone wherewith he may die, and he die, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. Or if he smite him with a hand weapon of wood, wherewith he may die, and he die, he is a murderer. The murderer shall surely be put to death. The revenger of blood, okay, this is a different guy. The revenger of blood, the Goel, himself shall slay the murderer. When he meets him, he shall slay him. Okay, we'll just keep reading. But if he thrusts him of hatred or hurl at him by lying in wait, ambush him, that he may die, or in enmity smite him with his hand that he die, he that smote him shall surely be put to death, for he is a murderer. The revenger of blood shall slay the murderer when he meets him. But if he thrust him suddenly without enmity, or cast upon him anything without laying of wait, or ambushing, basically, or with any stone wherewith a man die, seeing him not, and cast it upon him that he die, and was not his enemy, neither sought his harm, then the congregation shall judge between the slayer and the revenger of blood according to these judgments. Okay, the Hebrew word rasah, probably pronounced wrong, is a personal killing, but includes what we would call premeditated murder, manslaughter, and even accidental homicide. This passage makes it clear that God expects his people to examine the intent in the case of a homicide. Killings involving hostility are to be treated differently than those that result from accidents. The passage makes it very clear that hostile intent must be established by witnesses before anyone can put to death, and that is necessary to have more than one witness is detailed in verse 30. This is where one of the places we get this by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses thing. Okay? So the slayer or the manslayer is a person who has killed somebody. But their intentions and everything, if it's first degree or manslaughter or an accident or whatever. Number 35, Nicole. Number 35, verse 25 was about to read. The revenger of blood, the goel, is the next of kin. Have you ever seen the movie? You guys ever seen the movie Next of Kin with Patrick Swayze? Pretty good movie. But it kind of, the administering of the punishment against someone who had killed somebody, say I killed somebody closely related to Mr. Kane, I would be the slayer and he would become the revenger of blood. It would be his duty to hunt me down and kill me, especially if it was first degree murder. But if I accidentally killed them, I could go to this city of refuge and plead my case that it was accidental, and he wouldn't be allowed to kill me there unless I left, or that the judgment of the elders in the city was that that I was lying or something, and it really was murder. It would be treated differently, and I would be killed, either by them or the revenger of blood. In our little example, Mr. Kane. Does that make sense? Somewhat, sort of. So like the elders of the city would be judging whether or not the guy that fled to their city was guilty of murder or manslaughter or some other thing. And it continues at verse 25. And the congregation shall deliver the slayer out of the hand of the revenger of blood, the goel, and the congregation shall restore him to the city of his refuge where he was fled. And he shall abide in it until the death of the high priest, which was anointed with the holy oil. Okay, there's no police force in ancient Israel. A close relative thus became responsible to serve as the avenger of blood and execute the divine sentence on a murderer. The cities of refuge were necessary lest an angry relative take revenge on a person who killed a loved one inadvertently or on accident. This wise and humane system not only protected the innocent, but also secured Israel from the dangerous rounds of blood feuds common in many societies. One of the most famous ones being the Hatfields and McCoys in West Virginia. Okay, and it all started over some guy. One of the guys killed the other guy's pig, and he wouldn't restore it, which would have been biblically right. And they just kept killing each other. He killed a guy, and they killed a guy, and they continued. And that's kind of what Yeshua is driving at. Or what is it? We overcome evil with good. So at some point, somebody should have been forgiving or something, lest it just continue on to no end. Because every time somebody else died, another revenge quest began. Verse 26, but if the slayer, the murderer, or the person who killed somebody, shall at any time come within the border of the city of his refuge, the nearest city of refuge, where he was fled, and the revenger of blood, the avenger, find him without the borders of the city of his refuge, and the revenger of blood kills the slayer, he shall not be guilty of blood, because he should have remained in the city of his refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the slayer shall return into the land of his possession of judgment and unto you throughout your generations and all your dwellings. Whoever kills any person or murders, I think, no, let's just leave it kills there. Whoever kills any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. You need at least two. Moreover, you shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer, which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. The demand for capital punishment here in the case of murder, cold-blooded first-degree murder, is intended to uphold the value of life. You know, only a society which requires the murderer be put to death shows a proper respect for the sanctity of human life. It's it's in a way, well, let's not speculate and conjecture and stuff. Let's just read the text. And you shall take no satisfaction for him that is fled to the city of his refuge, that he should come again to dwell in the land until the death of the priest. So you shall not pollute the land. I think that's interesting, wherein you are. The land is polluted if you don't do this stuff. For blood, it defiles the land. I'm thinking Cain and Abel. Okay, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. Defile not therefore the land which you shall inhabit, wherein I dwell, for I, Yah, dwell among the children of Israel. Okay, there's wisdom and logic in all his right rulings. We have departed from the way, in my estimation, in America, and this land is polluted, and all the people in it. We're failing to do the commands. We're failing to do the right rulings. We're failing to purge the land of uncleanness. We're failing. And many people like it. That's what they want. And it's growing worse and worse and worse. And violent crimes and everything else are on the rise every year, going and going and going. Everything is getting worse. Now, where is evolution in this? I thought we were evolving and things were getting better, but the planet and the environment and morals and everything else are getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So that right there should prove that evolution is a lie. an outright lie. We've seen it in our own lifetimes, how everything's getting worse. But, okay, so if someone died on accident or something, the guy went to the city of refuge and stayed there and served his sentence until the high priest died and everything. If this were followed today, it should be that no innocent people are suffering, that if someone gets murdered, that the family of the and I don't know. I guess I can get a little extreme on this stuff, and it burns me up, and people aggravate me and stuff because they're like talking about these children dying in hot cars because their parents forgot them in there. And somebody asked me, well, how would you even stop it? And I said, take one of these people, you drag them out in the street, stick them in a hot car, lock them in there, and let them bake to death on live television, and that would slow things down a bit.
I've said the
Now, some people might really be forgetting, but I doubt it, or accidental at all. It's murder. And if you, well, I'm getting a little too, that might not be right for us as followers of Yah to serve out a sentence or whatever, but okay, it's not going to stop if you just keep, oh, it's okay, you forgot. And you know what I mean? Something more harsh needs to happen here. You punish criminals and discipline children. We keep getting it backwards. Criminals don't need discipline. They need set straight. But all that, we need witnesses and all that. I'm not at all saying we need to be a lynch mob or anything, but if these laws were in effect right now, you know what I'm saying? That person went to the city of refuge and the elders said, no way you forgot that kid in there that you forgot or whatever, and they would be killed. That would slow a lot of people down that might be thinking whatever evil thoughts they might be thinking. I'm going to get rid of my kids by leaving them, at least be humane about it or something. I can't even imagine what kind of death that might be. You know what I'm saying? At least give them away or something. Let foster care take them or something, anything. For Pete's sake, go see a doctor. There's something wrong with you. Anyway, sorry, I guess got a rant on everything. Okay, the death of Yeshua. Was it manslaughter or premeditated murder? Okay, the cities of refuge are kind of prophetic of him in a way. It's a safe place from your sins. You know what I mean? Sins committed. We run into the city of refuge and stuff, and Yeshua's death, I don't know. If we set aside all of our presuppositions and ideas and everything, it's an interesting question. Is it manslaughter or premeditated murder? Because Yeshua said, forgive them, they know not what they do. but it was kind of premeditated because they were plotting to have him killed and stuff. It would be a strange and interesting case. Questions, comments, insights, revelations. I'll let my ranting rest.
It's hard to tell because it's like both, premeditated. It's hard for me to fathom right there.
It's something to think on, something to make you think.
Yeah.
I don't really have an answer myself. It's just one of those kind of like, what is the sound of one hand clapping kind of that helps you open, get your brain going or something. Okay, so Yeshua is like our city of refuge in a way. No one can touch us as long as we abide in him. Right? And this was to endure until the high priest died, and he is our high priest, and he's not going to die anymore. So we're kind of stuck in our city of refuge, right? But that's a good thing since he is our city of refuge. It's pretty cool if you start getting into the like spiritual implications and stuff of these things.
Hey, I have to go, but I wanted to bring up, I know we're not there yet, and I don't know if you guys are going to get there, but at the very end, at the very end of Numbers 36, the very last verse, the commandments and judgments of which Yah commanded by the hand of Moses. I'm sorry, my dogs are being stupid. When my cousin said that the 10 commandments were the ones that were written down, the ones that we're to follow, and the other ones are just a bunch of oral laws that are just kind of line upon line, blah, blah, blah. I got to this verse a couple of days ago reading through this Torah portion, and I'm just like, how can you even believe that? Like, how can you believe that these laws were not given by the Most High? Like, this is what he wants us to do. These are his judgments, his statutes, it's his feast days. And shame on people who say anything other than that. Like, do you even read your scripture, like, at all? Okay, I have to go, though. I love you guys a lot.
See you later, Rico.
Oh, man, love you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Love you.
I need to get going.
Shalom.
Yeah, I gotta head out too, guys.
But that's a good thing.
Bye.
All right. Well, we'll maybe catch up next week or something. See ya.
Love y'all.
Shabbat shalom. Love you.
Shabbat shalom.
Love you. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
All right. I'm going to head out too. Let's have a word of prayer before we do, though. Some of us have a minute.
Okay.
And we'll catch up next week.
Okay.
Chapter 36. Let's bow our hearts. Father God, we thank you so much for each other. We thank you for this fellowship. Thank you for preserving it for us that we might continue to learn and grow in your grace, in your knowledge, and in your love, walking out your commandments by the Spirit, abiding in your love. We thank you so much. We thank you for the Sabbath rest and each other. And we thank you most of all for our city of refuge, Yeshua HaMashiach, our Messiah and King. Amen. Amen. Love you all, and we'll catch you
Love you too, Derek.
maybe
Thanks,
Tuesday
y'all.
or
Yeah.
Shabbat.
Love you, brother. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat.